Today we're looking at Warpgate.
Yeah, this is on Kickstarter right now. It is a 4X game that brings some interesting new stuff to the table, pun intended. So the way it works, everybody's going to take control of a different alien race. We have a game right now set up for 3 players. It will go up to 4. And your special alien races are going to have their own different powers, their own set of spaceships. And essentially, you're moving throughout the galaxy, trying to control planets for victory points. Each round, each player has 4 turns. And you can see on the sheets, on each turn, there's a number, 1, 2, 3, or 4. And depending on which turn you're on, your cards will actually be stronger or weaker. The later you play them, the more they're going to be worth, because it's going to be times 4 for whatever value the card is. So for example, give them one.
Yeah, so this card allows you to either... Well, we should first mention each card actually has 2 options, which is a big thing. So this game, actually, I think options is really the word for this game.
Yes, there's lots of decisions that you can make.
So if you chose the bottom option, which is recon, which is pretty much about moving stuff, if you played on your first turn, you're only going to be able to move them up to 1 space. However, if you played on the last turn, you can move them up to 4. So it really brings the option of not only choosing which ability you want, which will vary from attacking, researching, moving, pretty much more of your 4X general stuff, to also... do I try to do it now, or do I really try to get that movement as far as I can?
Yeah, same with like if you want to build more ships, all kinds of things. You might want to wait until later, or you want to get it in before somebody else has a chance to do something before you can. There are cards you can get as upgrades, which are these tech cards, and they will give you permanent powers that are ongoing throughout the game. Probably your biggest way that you're going to get points is there are also these planet cards, and those have to do with territory control. So if you're at a planet, you can use an action to control it, and if you control all the planets in a sector, which are divided by these lines on the board, you get to, and if one of these cards matches a color of the planet in that sector, so you need to make sure you're doing it at the right time, you can have that card, and what those are is sort of an objective...
secret.
Yeah, it's going to be secret just for you, and it's going to say something like, if at the end of the game you have control of a sector with a red planet in it, then you get 3 victory points. And that's one of the biggest ways you're going to get those points.
Right, and that's what makes it interesting too, because sometimes a planet may have 1 sector, which you'd think, that's great, I can get points really easy. However, if it doesn't match one of the colors that will come out, then it's worthless to conquer it at that time.
The final big thing you're going to be doing is attacking. So let's kind of show how that works. Let's say I was red and you're green.
And why don't I take my 2 green ships here to attack your 1 red?
Of course you're going to outnumber me because you're cruel. So the way it would work is we both draw 2 cards from our attack decks, which are identical. Everybody has the same attack cards, and you get to choose one of them only and put it face down. Once you've both picked, you flip simultaneously.
They will have a modifier on them. So you take the number of ships you have times the modifier, and that's going to be your winning score. Most of them will have an addition to abilities that usually don't trigger until after the winner is determined.
In this case, let's just do it. I had a ×2 multiplier, you had a ×5, so you clearly beat me because that gives you a score of 10 versus my 2.
Right. Assuming that ships are still standing, because I'm the winner, would choose the closest planet, legal planet that Jonathan can escape to, pretty much one where I'm not. So he would have to jump back to that red ship over there. Even if you are going to lose, you could be like, I'm going to at least take out half of his ships or something.
Yeah. They're definitely, it's not an all-out slaughter. You usually have a plan B that's pretty good that you can go to.
And the other big thing which I love is since you know everyone's deck, once these cards are done, and the one you don't choose goes face up in a discard pile. Right now, Jonathan can see my biggest card, the ×5, is in the discard pile, which means he might have a better chance now for combat.
Right, exactly.
So there's a lot of knowing, like, while there are a lot of choices, because everything's the same in the basic decks, you may know he can't do this or can do this, which allows me to make different choices.
So once the end game is triggered, it's either by one of these decks running out, someone getting their 5th tech, or someone running out of these control markers. You get one final round and then you count up your points. So I think that explains pretty much the game.
Yeah.
As far as our thoughts go, for me, I think there's a lot to love in this game. I love anytime any game of cards lets you choose between 2 different things, that's always great because
it's very funny how you love when games give you choice, but you hate having to make a choice.
I hate making choices, but I love having the option to do it. I'm a complicated man. And like you said, this thing over here where it reminds us of a similar system we've seen in games like BattleCon, where you know what other people have played. It's true for your action decks as well. You can say, oh, I might know, I've been paying attention, and I know that he played all his control cards already, so I don't have to worry about him taking this sector from me. I can be played a little more safe over there.
Right, exactly.
There's some interesting strategies there.
Which I do really like, because it's not too complicated, because there's only like a few things. In the end, the card's only like 4 different kinds of actions, give or take. Which is nice, and the top tells you how many are in each deck, which is also great. And the character abilities are really fun because they give you that slight, not too much to push you, but enough to give you some certain edges here or there. For example, the last game we played, your character allowed you to play 2 battle cards per turn, which made for some more interesting dynamics of how do I play, especially thinking about I could lose, but I can hit him twice now with something bad.
Yeah, and someone else had a card or had an ability where they were allowed to retreat if they didn't like the results of the battle. They could just back out of it without any consequences. So they had a lot more free reign to take risks because there was a lot less at stake for them.
Right, and these are really fun, weird abilities that really mesh well. And of course, it's also nice that the tech is, while it can be challenging sometimes, depending on the planet layout, it's not difficult to grasp. You know what you can and can't get, which makes it really fun. And some of them are hilarious. I personally took this out as it's your favorite, Diplomat.
Right, yeah, the Diplomat card means people can't attack you on turns 1 and 3 of the game.
Yeah, some of these abilities really turned the tides, I felt, when the games we played.
Definitely. This, by the way, is randomly laid out, this map. Every time you play, these hexes can be rotated in different directions, so there's all kinds of things that can occur there.
Oh, and of course, it should be said, if it wasn't obvious, this is a prototype. This is not
non-final components. I'm sure if you look at the Kickstarter page, you'll get to see what the final game is going to look like. Again, lots of things that I really liked about this game. I liked the scoring system. It doesn't feel like a lot of games where sometimes one guy has 60 points and you have 10. The scores were pretty close. And I mean, in our game, it was literally a 1-point difference between the winner. We did have one player who kind of got dragged behind a little bit, which can happen. But even then, I don't think it's as harsh or punishing as many of these 4X games tend to be. The same goes for the attacking. There was a lot of attacking, but it didn't feel like some other 4X games where it's really like, oh, I don't want to get attacked. It's the worst.
Or even once you get attacked, you're like, well, I'm like 5 turns behind now. Overall, I thought it was, while the game keeps it nice, streamlined, simple, it gave a plethora. Thank you, of choices, which to me was a big deal because it really made it so I didn't have to spend an hour trying to figure out my turn, but it wasn't like there's nothing I can do. It's always this.
Yeah, it also kind of has the feel to me of a programming game almost, in the sense that you only draw 4 cards per turn. There are abilities to let you draw more, but a lot of the times you're kind of deciding from the outset, oh, what order am I going to play these in, and you just play them out as they go. So even though we said there's so many choices, in another kind of funny way, you're limited enough that you have to be strategic in those choices, which I found really interesting. It made for some cool decisions that you had to make. My one, if I had to have one complaint about the game, it would just be the theme is nothing like to write home about. It's sci-fi or alien races. The art is fine, it's cool, but it's not. It's like pretty much any other sci-fi board game.
I mean, we did joke that the humans here, one of their sides is like, that's Mass Effect.
Yes, so it's a little generic in that regard.
My big thing, and this isn't too bad, you just have to watch out for it, is really the board layout. Like, some of the like we did a random one where all the blue planets were in one sector, in this huge sector. It was nearly impossible to conquer. And the person kept drawing if you control blue planets. So he was ruined, like...
Yeah.
That's the one thing you really should watch out for.
That's the kind of thing that, maybe once you've played it a bunch, that could be really interesting. But if you haven't, then it might be a little disappointing. So you might want to just play with the layout.
Right, but plenty of games have that issue. It's not the biggest thing. It just means you need to keep an eye out for it when doing your random map.
Just changing up your strategy.
Or even just knowing, like, okay, we're going to rotate this just to make sure there isn't, like, one that has 6 planets in it.
So, yeah, a lot of cool stuff at play. It is a 4X game, but it plays pretty quickly. Definitely a recommend for me. It's on Kickstarter right now, and we recommend you go check it out, I think. Yeah. So that's Warpgate. Thank you so much for watching. This has been Roll for Crit's Kickstarter preview.